the Keystone Sports Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Keystone Kickoff Show. I am Jim Galante. It is quarter three, and I'm joined by the newest member of our team. That is Landon Tengwall. Landon, welcome aboard.
Jim, thanks so much for having me, man. I'm excited to be on here, get to talk to you a little bit and dive into these games.
Fantastic. I'm excited about it. I know our listeners are too. Before we jump into UMass, which will finished up on Saturday, and Ohio State coming up next week, first of all, just for all the Penn State fans out there who are listening and care so much about you, just how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot better. Obviously a really tough situation with me having to step away from football. I've played it my whole life, so it's been hard. But the outpour of just support from Nittany Nation and just all Penn State alumni and all the fans has really been, spectacular to just feel that support and just people reaching out, just wanting to help. Has really been amazing. So I appreciate everybody and all your wishes and well wishes. It really means a lot to me.
That's fantastic, Landon. And just speaking as a Penn State fan, Penn State grad myself, once you're a Nittany Lion, you are always a Nittany Lion. And this is from a guy who I was last in a classroom at Penn State over 40 years ago. So I still consider myself a Nittany Lion. It's great to hear that you're doing well. It's even better to hear your voice on our show, get your expertise. See, the only problem with having you on is until you get on, I could spout whatever I want and try to sound like the expert. Now I've got someone who's really there and could probably tell me where I'm wrong. So I'm going to have to live with that. But anyway, let's start out with the UMass game that was on Saturday. The first thing I want to ask you, though, about it is you've got UMass on Saturday. Obviously, Penn State, a heavy favorite, expects to win this game. That's the way it turned out. We know that James Franklin has the 1-0 mantra. We just think about this week's game, 1-0. Does that work in a situation like this with Ohio State coming up next week? How do you keep focused on UMass and not think about Ohio State?
Yeah, Ohio State is obviously one of the biggest games of the year, and it's not lost on the players at all. One thing that Coach Franklin does a great job of, like you said, he drives home the 1-0 mentality, and how he kind of does that too is he uses other games, other upsets. He takes teams on, you'll look on Sundays and he'll kind of show, in the Sunday meeting, he'll show these teams that have maybe a big game next week, or maybe they just came off of a really emotional win the week before, maybe a win they weren't supposed to get, and they're playing a team that's below them, and they kind of look over it and then they lose. And he tries to keep that in perspective for us with games like UMass, especially with Ohio State coming up next week. And he does a really good job of driving that home, and also to enjoy victories. Victories in college football are not that easy to come by. Obviously, a lot of Penn State fans are spoiled. I've been really good for a long time, but a lot of programs don't get to win as often as we do. So one thing that Coach Franklin preaches is just making sure you enjoy those victories. It's not too often you get them. As you see yesterday, I don't know if you saw, but Coach Franklin, you got a ton of questions about Ohio State right after the game. And he's just like, can we just enjoy this win? We'll get to it this coming week. And I promise we're going to get after it, but just enjoy this win with the guys and celebrate with your teammates. And that's really, he does a great job of that. So like I said, of course, there's guys in the back of their mind, Ohio State's, creeping next week, but he really does a good job, and the whole coaching staff of just keeping a focus on what's at hand that week.
On Saturday, obviously, it was a big win, 63-0. And the two things that stick out is the starting players, they get rotated in and out, and then later in the game being able to bring in the backups. So how important is it for the starting players to have limited snaps, control the wear and tear on their body? And then the flip side is, how important is it for that experience for the backups to get out and get actual game experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially earlier on in the season when you're not really into conference play and, you have a couple easier games. it is a lot. It's so nice to get some of those reps off of those guys, so the wear and tear isn't as bad towards the end of the season. I mean, obviously injuries are going to happen throughout a season, but as much as you can limit that, um, it's really nice on the players, and especially like you said, being able to get those young guys some reps too, pays a lot of dividends down the line. So when maybe someone does go down, week 8, week 9, you look and you say, okay, this freshman or sophomore that maybe wouldn't have had any experience. Now he's already played in 2 or 3 games. We may have to burn his red shirt, but now he's got some experience on the field. He's comfortable. He's going out there against whatever Michigan State, and he's not shaking in his boots. He's already been out there. He's already played under the lights. He knows what that is like and what the preparation uh, coming into the game takes, to have a good game, that type of stuff. I think people, sometimes underestimate how important just having that, just being out on the field. It's just a different feeling when you're out there for your first time in college football. So it's really nice. And Coach Franklin, since I've been here and since he's been here, he's done a great job of earlier on always trying to get young guys reps. And obviously you saw that with Drew last year. Cliff obviously on the way out, they made sure to maximize Drew's reps as much as possible. Anytime there was a moment to be able to get him in the game, and he was in, and then you saw anytime he had to step in for Cliff, he was calm, cool, and composed because Coach Franklin did that and allowed him to get those reps earlier on in the season. So it really is great as far as injuries goes. It's taking those reps off the players. It's great for experience for the younger guys. So then when their time comes, they're ready to go. So that's definitely hats off to Coach Franklin for making that an emphasis, throughout the season, especially earlier on in the season.
And the same thing now at the quarterback position is happening this year. Bo Perula is getting all those valuable reps, and he has shown, especially running the ball, he's been very elusive and playing very well. Uh, and speaking of depth, since you're here as an offensive lineman, let's talk about the offensive line a little bit. The talk is, okay, there's more depth this season. The depth took a little bit of a hit without you there. And now your backup, JB Nelson, has been out. Part of the conversation has been possibly moving even Caden Wallace perhaps to a guard, play Drew Shelton at tackle. Just in general, how difficult is that shift from a guard to a tackle or vice versa? How different are those positions?
Yeah, they're real different, and I'll tell you, it's completely different as far as the run game and the pass. One thing that a lot of people agree with, the pass, in the pass game at tackle, you're out there on an island versus a premier D end. You're going against a guy like Chop Robinson out there, Adisa Isaac. As we saw, probably almost 5 sacks combined between the two yesterday. That's not too easy to go against. Now in the run game, you have a lot more space. It's a little bit easier. You have more time at guard. The defensive tackle is up on you. So run game, it is two Rams going at it, smashing heads. I mean, it is not for the weak down at guard. So it's a little more physical at guard. But now pass pro is a little bit easier because there's not as much space in between you and the defensive tackle as there is at tackle against the defensive end. So it's a little bit easier to get your hands on the guy. But it's something that Coach Trout takes pride in, though, making sure everybody can play all positions. We try to get, throughout the spring, throughout the summer, get as many reps as possible at different positions. So when something like this happens, we can plug and play guys. I mean, you saw yesterday, there's a lot of guys that played different positions. And coming into the season, we thought we had almost enough for 2 full lines that are playable in any type of game, not just trying to get, guys some reps, guys that are just interchangeable. And like you said, take those reps off some of those guys.
Very good, and it's interesting because for the layperson, you see the 5 big bodies up front, and it's a little tough to tell what are those responsibilities. But you made a great point. Yes, there was a point in that game where I'll be honest, I began to feel sorry for the UMass right tackle because someone was beyond him before he even had a chance to turn. So that tackle position, it's great to be big and strong, but you need to be athletic enough for those guys. Chop Robinson is so quick getting around that corner, isn't he?
Look, I've played against Chop since my sophomore year of high school, and he has always been getting off the ball quick, just explosive out of his stance. And like you said, you got to have some quick feet to cover up a guy like Chop Robinson. He is
I,
dynamic, and as we saw yesterday, with 2 sacks, he's a game breaker.
and it was nice to see the DNs. He, Adisa Isaac, Denai Dennis Sutton. I think they had
Mm.
5 sacks in the first half. Very impressive numbers that they were putting up. Let's talk a little bit more general now. You alluded to the running game, and one of the concerns Penn State fans have, and we'll get to the passing game, but Katron Allen and especially Nicholas Singleton were so good at getting those big runs last year. Penn State fans just thought it was our, right to have those almost every game. We're going to see Nicholas Singleton taking off 60, 70 yards, but that hasn't happened this year. Is there anything you're seeing that a reason why we're not seeing those this season?
Yeah, obviously you want to have explosive plays in the run and the pass game. That's what kind of opens up the game for the offense. Um, and you saw that a lot last year, especially with Nick. But having those breaking those big runs down the sideline that everybody loved to see, and those were awesome. A lot of times those were, an ISO run up the middle that Nick ended up bouncing outside, and he's a fast dude, so it's hard for guys to catch him. And one thing this year that's kind of changed a little bit that I've noticed is he's getting a little more vertical instantly. As soon as he gets that ball, he's trying to get yards right away. Just get positive yards. One thing we always talk about as an offense is staying on track. So as far as it's 1st and 10, we want to get at least 4 yards on this first play to then make it 2nd and 6 or less. Then we have the whole playbook at our disposal to use there. We start to get into 2nd and 10, and then maybe a negative play, and then next thing you know, it's 3rd and long, and that gets really hard. Then you got to dig into the playbook for 3rd and extra long plays, and you don't have a ton of those. So that's one positive for the fans. Although those explosive runs aren't happening right now, which I think they will come. If these the tight ends, wide receivers continue to block downfield, and the running backs just have to make a guy miss. But getting those 4, 5, 6 yard carries and keeping those drives at long drives, 11, 12 play drives is actually really important and kind of keeps the offense on a really good schedule and just a good rhythm, especially headed into a team like Ohio State. You want your offense to be clicking on all cylinders, and that starts with the run game up front. So if you're chugging away, getting those good positive carries, I wouldn't be too worried about that as a fan. I think those explosive runs will come, especially with guys like Nick and Katron, carrying that rock.
Fantastic. And let's hope we see a few of those this coming week against Ohio State. We're not done with Landon. We've got more to go. Stick with us for quarter number 4.
Keystone Sports Network.